image in my head. Lighter, darker, more people, fewer people, bigger lift, smaller lift. Altering the memory changed how I felt about it. I started to feel more in control and a bit helpless. Phobias don't have to develop from our memory. And at the start, he suddenly became scared of bridges later in life.
TECSUN, agoraphobia, which technically fear of the marketplace. So agora is the Greek word for marketplace. And fear of essentially crowded places. So agoraphobia has a much later onset. So people develop agoraphobia typically 18 onwards, sometimes a bit earlier, sometimes a bit later. And the key factor in developing agoraphobia for most people is panic attacks. So in a panic attack, what happens is that people experience some sort of intense anxiety. Now that could happen because you're anxious about something, but it could also be that you drank way too much coffee and your heart's going fast and so on. But the key thing is that people respond to the normal symptoms of anxiety and misinterpret them. They say, well, I'm going to lose control, I'm going to fight, or whatever. So when you get that really frightening thought, then that increases your anxiety, which then increases your heart rate, makes you feel short of breath, makes you flush, makes you feel trembling and so on, which seems to confirm that something really terrible is happening, that you are losing control and face your worst. And that vicious circle is a panic attack, basically. If the panic attack occurs in a particular place, like in a supermarket, then people, next time they go to the supermarket, this hasn't happened before, and then it starts to happen again because they're anxious, and they have another panic attack. We know that for some people that happens when they're driving across bridges, and so it's interesting because it's more documented in the US than it is in Europe. And that's probably because people are more likely to get around by cars.
Oh, that's more bridges?
Well, they're more likely to drive over bridges unbalanced as opposed to walking.
People in the US are actually more likely to have a fear of bridges. But what about elsewhere in the world? Shido at the University of H in Hungary researches how phobias vary across different cultures.
We did research in different populations across the world, like in Thailand and Portugal, Hungary, and what we found is that people who report more experience with, for instance, snakes are less likely to be scared of them. And that's not something that has to do with where you live, but rather how much experience you have. Because people in, let's say in Thailand, who routinely encounter snakes that can be venomous are also less likely to fear them if they know more about the snakes. And the same is true, for instance, in Hungary, where we don't have venomous snakes at all.
Ah, interesting. So you're saying that people in Thailand are less fearful of snakes than people in Hungary?
We can say that in general, yes.
That's so interesting because that's the absolute opposite of what you'd expect, you'd think. If you live in Thailand, you know, your fear of getting bitten by a venomous snake isn't completely irrational. That could happen. Whereas in Hungary, you're not going to get bitten by a venomous snake.
Yeah, we only have just like, fishy ones.
Fishy ones.
More likely worms, so they are not fearful at all. But still, people who don't have any experience are more fearful, and the World Health Organization did a pretty big survey across the world about different phobias, and they also found that more urbanized areas, the fear is higher from, for instance, animals where you don't encounter any form of wildlife. There are some islands near Portugal where people are really scared of lizards.
Of lizards?
Lizards, yes. And we think that might have a strong cultural background in the sense that there are myths and legends that make you believe that the different lizards are fearful.
So these Portuguese lizards, are they scarier than your average lizards, or are they just sort of normal lizards?
So they are just normal, typical lizards. It's more like how people perceive them, and if you encounter different, let's say, tales from your early childhood, it's easier to get scared of them because they also carry a lot of visual features that, for instance, snakes and other animals carry what you are fearful of.